So we just saved this 79 MGB from going to the junkyard. Now, with as windy it is out here, we'll wait till we get it in the shop to tell the story and go around the car and look at it. Let's get going. You good?
Yep, we're good.
Good. So I get a call the other day. Guy says he's got this MGB that he's given up on. He taken it to a shop that's not in this local area that was the only guy he knew that worked on them. He didn't really want to take it to him, but he didn't know who else to take it to. And since he knew the guy, he thought maybe, everything would be okay. And I've heard some stories about this guy. None of them have been all that great, but I don't know the guy. I've never dealt with him. I don't know anything about him. And he took it in there. It was running, it was driving, it had a top on it, but it was leaking bad enough on the oil that he didn't want to drive it like it was. And the guy was supposed to put a top on it while he had it. And the car ended up sitting there for years. Now, I don't know how many years, because he said he can't remember when he took it to the guy. He don't remember how many years it had been. But we can say that the tags that were on it when we went to go pick it up expired in '06. So that's, what, 7 years ago? Or 17 years ago? Something like that. So, yeah, been sitting for a while. So, after it sat there for as long as it did, and he said he remembered the guy called him, said there was something wrong with the crankshaft and this and that and the other, and he didn't understand what he was saying. But now the guy went out of business, and there was some big hoop-to-do about the police showed up and shut him down, and I guess he's being sued by a number of people, and he kind of felt lucky that he got his car back, even from what I understand. But when all that happened, it got pushed outside. But as you notice, the top's missing. So it was put out there with no top on it. And from what he understands, he thought it was sitting out there for something like 3 to 6 weeks. But I think it was actually a bit longer than that when you look at the interior. So now that it's sat there for that long of a time period, it doesn't run now. The rear brakes were frozen. There's lots of work that needs to be done to get it running. And he said, I don't want to do the work to the car. I don't want to get it done. My kids don't want it. He says, I called the junkyard. I was going to have it hauled away. And I just decided that I'd rather find somebody else maybe that works on these things that's maybe a little bit further away that could come get the car. We gave him more than the junkyard did, so don't worry about that, or the junkyard was going to. But just give somebody who would at least be able to use it for parts or put it back on the road. Now, we intend on putting it back on the road because, look at it. It's, why would you not try to put it back on the road? But it's going to take a little bit of work. So let's take a little closer look at this thing. Well, like I said, this was a running and driving car when he dropped it off. But now it isn't. So we look at it here and we can see that it's had a conversion to a Weber carb, and the whole top of the carb is missing off of it. But now that it's been sitting as long as it is, no more fluid in the master cylinder. I'm gonna guess the clutch master cylinder is probably empty as well. We get in here and we see that this is not the original cylinder head. It's an early non-smog head, which means it's a large chamber head. So unless this engine was rebuilt with the high compression pistons, it's going to have a really low compression. something like 7.5 to 1. So it'll be a pretty slow car on the road if that's the case, but we don't know yet. Now, like I said, this color has been changed. It was changed before he bought it. So it turns out it used to be russet brown. Yay, love that color, huh? But whoever changed it actually did a very complete job. And they took everything out of the engine compartment, the engine out, everything, and painted the whole engine compartment, the trunk, everything is all painted. Bottom side here, so it was a pretty thorough job. And what I'm going to guess is a newer version of British Racing Green, because Rover used a color very much like this that was metallic. So it's very dirty, got a lot of cleanup to do to the car. It does have the Allison ignition conversion on it, which I'm a little surprised to see, because the late cars actually had a really good ignition system that didn't go bad, like say the 75, 76, 77 cars with the Opus that was so bad. The late cars here actually are usually running still. But it's got the conversion, which that's still available today. It's now under the Crane name. Now, like I said, when he dropped the car off, it had the top frame and everything, and that came up missing. He has no idea what happened to that. And the shift knobs disappeared. There was a battery in it. Battery cover's gone. And I don't know if this was like this before, but this is ripped out here. I think that was already done. But so that's one of the biggest issues outer body wise right now that's immediately visible. But this thing was supposedly just sitting outside 3 to 6 weeks. But when you look at this and the mold and stuff in here, and pull back and look at what's underneath of it and the rest of the condition, I'd say it might have been sitting out a little longer than that. How long, I don't know, but that guy said once he found out it was sitting outside, he got it back to his place as soon as he was able to. But this thing's going to get a complete new interior. It's going to be completely gutted, and it's going to get a complete custom bespoke interior that's going to be hand-stitched. No prepackaged, no kit stuff at all. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's going to happen probably on the channel here. Doing this whole car from scratch, from the first attempt to fire it up, and checking compression, everything to it driving down the road will be done on our channel. So look for a lot of future episodes on this thing. Now looking in the back here, the trunk is actually not too bad. We got the jack here. We've got the bars for the boot cover. He said there was a tonneau with it when he dropped it off, and it's no longer there. The missing marker light lenses here. And we have some bits from the carb, but the actual top of the carb is not here. I don't know what we're going to do with that yet. I do have some of those laying around, but I personally don't like those, don't like using them, but I do have stuff laying around to put that together. And like I said, this thing's had a collar change, which, you know, if you're into MGs, you know this is not an original collar. It has had some rust repair. The dog legs on both sides have been repaired, and you reach back in here and you can tell there is some rust, a little bit of rust back in here. And the castle rail here has some rust on the bottom of it, but it's not really that bad. I see cars worse than this all the time. And, you know, if they're well taken care of and garage kept, that stuff won't continue to go very far, and that's not nearly enough rust to make the car weak or dangerous to drive or anything. Of course, we're going to have put new tires on it because they are all dry rotted and crappy. We were having problems with the brakes being stuck and wheels jamming up on us while we were trying to move it. But I think we got good bones to work with here. And it should be a fun project to get it up and running.